Have you had any nerves towards actually starting your business?
No, because someone once told me that being nervous and being excited is the same emotion. So every time I get nervous, I think I've programmed myself to tell myself, no, you're excited. No, you're not nervous. Yeah. That's silly. You don't get nervous, you get excited.
Do you know, and it's a really great point that you make there, because it's actually neurochemically exactly the same thing. I looked into this. It is the exact same emotion. It's interesting that the way that you frame that and the way it comes across in your head, of if you look at it and go, I am nervous, that it feels uncomfortable. And if you're excited, that it feels... Because if you dig into that feeling, it does feel exactly the same. Yeah. If you look at what anxiety and what excitement are, excitement is, I want something to happen and it's not quite here yet. Mm-hmm. It's wanting what you don't currently have. It's very interesting, actually, to look at the fact they are the same thing, but that's a good mindset to come into business with.
Yeah,
and I have to say, it's helped me on this front. I spoke to a friend, funnily enough, about this yesterday, of taking that perspective that I think at the moment I'm healthily stressed because I'm making a lot of changes in my life, which I'm sure you'll understand. Mm-hmm. And as a result of that, I'm feeling a sort of nerve and a fear, but it's a happy fear. It's like I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, well, if I wasn't feeling this way, I'd probably actually be doing something wrong, because what I'm wanting to do involves this feeling. This is the feeling of moving towards your goals.
Yeah, it's meant to happen. It's part of the process.
Yeah.
You know, especially with stress. We say, oh my gosh, I'm so stressed. You know, I can't cope, I'm so stressed. No, you've told yourself that.
Yes.
You know, use that energy to drive yourself forward. It's all about your mindset. And I don't feel like I'm a particularly influential person with things like that, you know, but I think it's what you tell yourself. You know, if you said to a child, okay, show me what it looks like to be nervous, you know, and then they'd play with their hands and things like that. You say, tell me what it looks like to be excited, you know, and you'd see their face light up. You know, you see it in children, but people don't see it in adults.
Yes, we're far more subdued
exactly the same.
Adults. But I would argue, if you looked at a child and said to them to do both things, they'd probably do the exact same thing, just they'd do one of them quicker.
Yeah.
They'd do the excitement one, they'd be jittery, but with a smile.
Yeah.
And anxiety would still probably be, you know, brushing the hands or playing with the fingers. It'd be the same sort of thing.
And it's almost that we're taught that's, if you're meant to feel that way, that's how you act.
Yes,
and
that's right.
Sometimes I think we put ourselves in boxes. It's okay, well, you feel that way, so I need to behave like this. I feel stressed, so I need to, you know, be a certain way.
I need to act stressed.
Yeah. You don't. You know, you just have to manage that and take yourself out of whatever that space is and think, no, this is a new day.
I think it's a very critical point, actually, on when you're pursuing something, that you're quite often not going to feel the way you hope to feel. I can attest to the fact that this is, though I love doing this is not the same as having the conversations that brought me to this point. The reason why I want to do this is because I love sitting and having a conversation over a coffee. This is different. I've got a pressure that's going on there. But that doesn't mean this is a bad thing. And this pressure that I'm feeling, as we've touched on there, is sort of the precursor. And with that, as you just touched on there, the fact that you can feel so different to what is actually the case. You know, you could be wildly successful or moving in the right direction and feel intrinsic and nervous and even some more malignant feelings than that. I think an interesting point to go into here would be the bravery and the courage that is required to start anything. And on that point, I'd be interested to see what it was that you thought when you first started going into business. What was the context of your mind when you got into the business?
I think the first thing that you fall down the rabbit hole of doing is you look at what other people are doing.
Yes.
And you start to justify and reason, okay, well, they've done it like this, it must be because. And you marry everything up and you don't sort of look, okay, well, where am I? Where do I want to be and how am I going to get there? What works for me? So my business is Event Rent. So we have sweet carts, crisp walls, you know, Mr. and Mrs. LED signage. It's all for parties and events. We also have like things like selfie pods and things like that. So you can look at other companies and you can sort of look at what they do and how they do it and how they tailor their packages, for example. But then you look at how long they've been established for. And, you know, they have fans, you know, some of them are electricians and builders on the side. So they already have that core foundation, whereas, you know, we don't.
Yes.
So what matters for somebody else, or what doesn't matter for someone else, will matter for me, and vice versa. So you can't look at what other people are doing. You have to sort of focus, okay, well, this is how I overcome my challenges. And you just have to start.
Yes.
You have to just take one step at a time. I've done, you know, 5 steps forward, 3 steps back so many times now, and it's so frustrating because you think, right, I've done that. You know, for example, I set up all my social media, that was the day we first spoke, and then the night before I was told, yeah, you've done that all wrong. I was thinking, how can I set up a Facebook account wrong? How can I, you know, surely username, email address, name, job done, and I'd done it all wrong. And when someone else broke it down to me, it made so much sense.
Yes.
But you don't know what you don't know, and you just have to forgive yourself.
You have to come at it from the perspective that you're coming at it from. I think a good saying that I like to sort of encapsulate that is comparison is the thief of joy. If you look at what someone else has, you are almost invariably, even if that person has less than you can still make a comparison on the inverse of that. Of you could look, your business might be, for instance, more successful than someone else's, but then in looking at someone else through that metric, you think, oh, well, how successful actually is my business? What's actually going on here? I wonder what he's doing over there. Yeah. It's very easy whilst we're doing these things to, as you say, look at what someone else has got and not take the full picture of the fact that this is someone who's done this for 10 more years than we have, or they've come from a similar field already and they've got experience there, or they've got there's a magnitude of different things that people have that are to their advantage, and from the outside you don't see that. You just see one package. You think, oh, they're better than me, that's it. You're not actually looking into why it is that they're coming from a more advantageous position. Equally well, as a result of doing that, you denigrate your own advantages. You know, there are things that you will be able to utilise, that you will be able to work in your favour so that you're in an advantageous position.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and you have to remember as well, you know, all these other companies.
Yes, I shall clip that together, and whoever's called me is going to get a very irritated voicemail back afterwards.
That's okay. So you just have to think, you know, everyone started somewhere once, you know, and you can't compare yourself with them. You know, looking at a blank piece of paper and thinking, okay, well, this is day one. Everyone had day one. You know, they might be on day 1,000 and you might be on, you know, day 7. You're in different lanes, and it's okay. I think what I found, especially in this industry, because my mindset at first, I thought, okay, you know, business. You know, I worked in London for a little while, you know, and everyone's trying to fight for clients and undercut each other. And I thought, right, well, that's just what life is. You know, if you're going out there and you're putting a product out there, you have to be competitive, you know, and sometimes you have to be a bit cheeky with that. But that was one of my learning curves quite early on, when I met so many people who said, no, we look after each other here. You know, I made sure that we bought, well, also we had to, but I enjoyed the fact that we were buying secondhand. You know, I've never looked to buy anything new. Everything we've bought has been from somebody else, and we have retrofitted it to work for us, or we've upcycled, or we've done everything that we've needed to do to get things to work. But what I've also bought, when I've bought the core of whatever it is I have, I've bought the knowledge that comes with that.
That's right.
You know, and the connections and ultimately the support. You know, I've met so many people now who are competitors, if you like, who have said, look, there's so much work here. We get fully booked. You will one day be fully booked. I support you, you know, and when I have work, I'll send it your way. And if you can do the same, you know, everyone can have a piece of the cake here, you know, which is so lovely. And only if that's not a reason to carry on, I don't know what is.
It sounds as though you're coming from somewhere where you've got experience, real skin in the game of sort of competitive business before where you are now? You've come from somewhere that's got a real sort of not us versus them as such, but really people going for it on their own behalves. And now you've come into a space where you've got people that are, as you say, generous enough to share the cake around, piece of the pie for all.
Yeah, I used to work in London, and the company that I worked for used to, it was totally judge a book by its cover. And I'd hear conversations in the office, okay, well, their net value isn't enough. We don't want to do business with them.
Cool.
And I thought,
Charming.
bloody hell, that's harsh.
Yeah.
But then I sort of looked and I thought, okay, well, actually, there is almost a little bit of sense to that. And I started believing that, that's the right way to be. And it's not, because the person sat next to you, they could be sat in, joggers, they could be a millionaire.
And quite often are.
And they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's so many people that I've met, or that I'm aware of as well, that are exactly like that. And I just sort of thought, no. And and if someone judged me like that, I would deliberately take my business elsewhere now.
Yes, and I've my understanding is that a lot of people do that.
Yeah.
A lot of people do almost. I actually heard a story when I was working up at the pub that there was someone who purposefully went into these exotic car brands wearing shit clothes.
Yeah.
Just to see how they would treat him. It is interesting to see how business so often goes in this sort of it's what I want and I don't give a shit about what anyone else wants.
Yeah.
If their net worth isn't as good as mine, then they're obviously not on my level. It's interesting to see how you have made such a point out of making your business all friendly, or working with people, giving people opportunities, and as you say, working with other companies so that you can all get the benefit of that. It's refreshing to see business be done in a amicable way rather than an arrogant way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've already had people, approach me for things, and I've, had to say, okay, we're not ready yet. I'm still in that pre-launch phase. And it's a community, and you think, okay, well, going into business, I'm in this on my own. It's so scary. It's only me and my partner who are listed as directors. We're the only people that are involved at the moment. And it will probably be like that for quite a long time. But we're not on our own. There are people that I have met that I can ask questions to. I sent a couple of messages out, okay, saying, I'm struggling with insurance or this or that. What did you do? How did you deal with that? And they've gone, oh, no, what you need to be doing then is this. But I've put myself out there, put money in their hands, to help them. They've helped me, and now we're continuing to do so. And it has to start from somewhere. And I think, going back to, sort of that being brave, you have to give to get back.
Yes, you have to be willing to do something
Yeah.
to get somewhere. I think it's the point that people so often fall short on, is that in order to see what happens, you need to try.
Yeah.
And as a result of trying, you expose yourself to the discomfort that comes with doing it.
Yeah.
You can't get around the fact that when you choose to do something that is worth doing, that you're going to experience discomfort. As we've touched on here, I'm naturally an anxious and intrinsic person, so to be spending most of my time, pushing a business out there, or speaking to someone as to whether they want to come on, or having someone on in front of me,
Yeah.
spending all of that time doing essentially what is the inverse of what it is that you are as a person is daunting.
Yeah.
But, and there's definitely a point for you to make here, just because something feels uncomfortable doesn't mean that it's something for you to avoid. And invariably, you cannot get around this when it comes to doing things that are worth doing. You will experience discomfort. Even if you choose to do exactly what it is you want to do, it's a different game because you've got pressure, or you've got expectation, or you've got finances to think about. Talk to me about how important it is to keep at the forefront of your view that what you're doing is what you want to be doing, and irrespective of those, those anxieties that come from. I know you said that you were. What was the phrase you used? You were. Forgive me. just about to start pre-launch.
Yeah, before launching, yeah.
What anxieties are there with being about to launch a product? And first of all, what is pre-launch? What does pre-launch mean?
So it's all that build up. So, at the moment, we started this in June 2024.
Okay.
We had our friend lent us their workshop. So we'd done a lot of painting, decorating, upcycling. We sorted loads of things out during that. And we were so lucky to have that space. So we've worked really hard, sort of physically building things, putting things together. And we found ourselves in a position, okay, well, we've got everything, we're good to go. But it's not as easy as, okay, this is what I've got, let's go out and sell it. Because people don't have photos, it's their wedding day. They want to know what's coming through. And I can't send them a photo of something in a workshop, because it doesn't look very glam, let's be honest. Yeah, you don't want something bright white, with oil in the background. It's unique. So yeah, it's all of that. So we were very lucky to work with a local school who is also a wedding venue. Again, something that I reached out to a lot of people for. This is what I knew I wanted to get all of my sort of products and different pieces in a room all together to be able to take photos of that. So I reached out to different wedding venues because that's essentially where we're gonna be. That's where our business will be for weddings and parties. So I reached out to about 20 different places in the area, and I was so shocked at the response. So my email basically introduced myself, introduced my partner, saying this is what we're doing, this is where my business is at. I need to take loads of photos, just so I can put together like brochures, flyers, leaflets, my social media, my website, and then once I do that, then I'm good to go. And so many places come back to us with, yes, brilliant, they have the space, then we can have a little look and we can talk about you joining our recommended supply list, it'll be so nice to work with you. And I was thinking, wow, these venues that owe me nothing.
Yes.
I am just someone off the street saying, I have something, I can't show you what I have right now, but I want to.
Yes.
And so many people have given us the opportunity. Now, at the moment, I've only sort of gone down one path, simply because of time constraints. But again, seeing that generosity, it's amazing. So back to the pre-launch, I've now got, I had a photographer out. We got loads of pictures of everything all set up, and I'm just waiting for them photos now to come back to me, and then I can start with my social media, my flyers, my pre-launch content on socials as well. Loads of people have said to me, okay, you need to start at the bottom, build up a hype, this is coming, that's coming, start putting behind the scenes photos together.
Give people the inside scoop. That's
it. Yeah, you are the face of your business. You need to put yourself out there, and that's the bit where I'm thinking, oh my god,
Is that something that is anxiety inducing for you?
It's more so I know I've been told how important it is,
right?
And I don't want to get that wrong.
Yes. That is a very strong feeling. I notice it when I'm on these microphones. If I think, I've got to make sure every word is meticulously correct, and I can't get it wrong. It's funny with that though that I actually just had this thought that if you get one word in your offering wrong, or you get one thing slightly off kilter there, it's not going to be doomsday. It's not going to be the end of what it is that you're going for.
No.
It's important to put into perspective that when you're going into something that is new, that you probably will make these mistakes.
Absolutely.
Or you will maybe live to look on and think, that's fine, but if I was doing it now, might have been different. But as we've just touched on, you can only speak from where you currently stand.
Yeah, I'm on my third logo. I haven't even launched yet. It's when you, and this is what I quite like about the moment, I'm taking my time.
Yes, that's important.
We have time. Use it as a tool. Not everything's a rush. It's not a race. This is your business. So I go back and I look at things, and I'll put something together, and I'll go back to it. I'll never post it on the same day, or I'll never say, okay, send that to order. I've approved it. I'll always go back with a fresh pair of eyes, because it's only me. My partner helps with more of the physical stuff, the moving of things and the painted and decorated and all of that side, all the typical man
stuff,
things. That's it. And I'll do all the things, but behind the scenes, if you like, the things that just seem to appear. So that's where I'm at. But as much as I have to trust myself, I have that second pair of eyes, but I need to know in my gut that I've done the right thing, and that I'm 100%. Because if I'm not 100% behind it, I can't back it.
Yeah. There's a point there that you touched on that I liked just beforehand, of this. You have to realise when you start something that you have no idea what you're going into. And you said you'd gone into this and you'd seen such an abundance of generosity and kindness that was obviously not initially expected.
No.
That is an interesting point to look at. When we are about to start something, we catastrophise to the fullest extent.
Yeah.
You only look at, oh my God, what if I get that word wrong? Or what if the recording goes off, or whatever? You only think about what could go wrong. Very rarely do we actually look and think, I might go into this and it might run perfectly smoothly. It might go exactly the way I want it to, and everything is good.
Yeah.
It's important to realise that you can't predict what is going to happen. The only prediction you can make is one that is negative. You can only look with that skewed, oh my God, the world is going to explode the minute I step onto the stage sort of perspective. It is important to note that keeping a grasp of the fact your mind is innately pessimistic on that front, you're going to look at what could go wrong. It's important to keep that in mind and realise, actually, when I start something, I don't know what's going to happen. It could go exactly the way I want it to. Nothing might go wrong. I might be able to do it exactly as I wish I could, or better. It might go perfectly.
Yeah. It might exceed your expectations.
Exactly.
When we were doing the photo shoot at the school, we the day before, it was beautiful weather. It was sunny. It was actually a little bit warm for February. So I really hope we get this weather tomorrow. My God, it rained and it poured and it did not stop.
Welcome to England.
Yeah, so, we were loading everything into the van and unloading at the other end, and everything was getting wet. And you just think, of all the days, I didn't need this today. But then I thought, no, because as rough as this is right now, and this is not ideal, and also we're getting everything out, so that's almost your best stroke your worst day at work, right? Having to do everything all on the same day at the same time. And now in the rain. So looking back, when me and Dan were driving home, I said, that was our worst case scenario. And we did well.
Yes.
We did it on time. It's not going to get worse than that. We've not got anything more we can put out, set up in the time frame that we did it. The weather surely can't get any worse than that downpour that we've just dealt with. And we smashed it. And it was horrible in the morning. So I think, oh no, I was hoping to get pictures of myself, and my hair was a mess, and I just felt rubbish.
And downpour put an end to that.
And exhausted by the end of it. And I look back and thought, well, we now know. I'm grateful in a way, because I now know it only gets better.
Yes. And there's an absolute importance in that lesson for if you go into something and it does go wrong, there's a lesson to be derived from that. There's always value to be taken from the experiences that you have. And as you say, it can't really get worse than where you've gone there. Yeah. It was the worst weather in the highest condition.
Yeah, the highest stress.
That is a valuable lesson. And I think that's something important for people to remember, that if you're doing something and it goes wrong, of course we innately look at that and go, fucking hell, that has really gone up the
Give me strength.
Yeah, and you can't help but look at it negatively. Of course you can't. It is a negative situation.
And when you have your own business, everything's so personal.
Yes, you do feel attacked by Mother Nature sometimes.
Yeah, because I was putting up the crisp wall, and the packets of crisps weren't laying straight, and I was like, oh my God.
What do you crisps have against me? Why can't you just do your thing?
Why can't you just be nice to me for one day?
Yeah, stupid crisp.
But you just think, well, because that's a reflection of me. Yeah. That crisp sitting on that wall wonky is the equivalent of me going out in an unironed shirt. But then you look back and think that's ridiculous. It's just a packet of crisps.
Yeah, but you can't get away from that mindset when you're working towards something. It is that hyperfixation. I know you say satirically that it's just a bag of crisps on the wall, but it's not. It does stand as what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I do think it's important for people to realise that negative feeling that can come when the torrential downpour occurs or the packets of crisps are away, that there's a lesson to be derived there. If something goes wrong, I actually would stand in saying that you want things to go wrong when you start.
Yeah.
It's the thing that people avoid the most. When someone is umming and ahhing as to whether they want to start the business or they want to work towards something or they just anything that they want to pursue, the perennial fear is, what if it goes wrong? You want it to go wrong.
Yeah.
You want that to happen. I think it's so easy, and it's something that I am certainly guilty of doing in my days, of hibernating away from it, of thinking if I just pretend it's not there, it's not there.
I think we're all guilty of that.
Of course we are. But you cannot get away from the stress of starting something, but that's not to say it isn't worth starting.
No. And like we said right at the beginning, stress isn't a bad thing.
Yeah.
It's how you perceive it. Use that as motivation. You think, okay, well, I'm stressed now, but if I'm stressed, I care, and if I care, I'm doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah, and you're doing the right thing. You're not going to feel stressed as to whether it's going to work when you're sat in your bed.
Yeah.
Because you can't. You're not doing the right thing. If you are making sure that everything is going the way it is, and you think, oh my God, I hope everything's going the way it is, well, that's because you're trying to do it. It's something that whilst I was setting up the screens, I thought, I spent about 3 hours a few days ago trying to get all of this to work. And by the end of the 3 hours, it wasn't all working.
Yeah.
And I came away from it, and initially I thought, oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
I've just wasted 3 hours.
Yeah.
But I came away from it and I thought, no, as we've touched on there, I now know that at least I tried. And I faced something. It wasn't me sitting 3 hours somewhere else waiting for it, needing it to be done.
Yeah.
You tried.
Yeah, you put yourself out there, and I'm sure you learn what does and doesn't work, and
I learned that
what
computers
not to do.
don't work if you want them to. that was what.
Did you turn it off and on again?
Probably about 5,000 times, yeah. But no, it is important for. I think if you are to lean into pain and to discomfort when it comes to progress, that is where you find progress.
Yeah.
I think the more you try to avoid it, the further you get away from what it is you want to do. It was something I experienced every day when it came to music. I was terrified to perform in front of people. And of course, as someone who's doing music, you need to perform in front of people. You can't not. But as a result of me choosing to shy away from that, I felt comfortable because I wasn't doing what I knew would scare me. But am I doing music anymore? No, I'm not, because I didn't want to do it anymore. I lost the love for it. It's important to take fear and discomfort and reconceptualize that. When you're starting a business and you feel that discomfort, good. You're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
There's a Buddhist phrase that I quote incessantly, and for good reason, of life is suffering. Life is about moving into what is difficult, because in the process of moving towards what is hard, you learn how to deal with that. You're not going to get better in your business without experiencing those days of torrential downpour. And now, as you say, you know what to do. You've tested yourself. It's proving yourself.
Yeah, and I've taught myself, and that's, I've got no one to thank but me.
Yeah.
And which is, it's almost, it's where you want to be. I know that I am where I am because I've worked to be where I am. And that's not to say, some people don't get lucky, and that they're undeserving of that. Everyone has their own path, but I know that everything that I have, my house, my car, when me and Dan finally do go on holiday, I'll appreciate it so much more because I did that.
Yes, it is the life's yin and yang of that difficulty that you have to endure in order to get what you want makes the thing that you want that much better.
Yeah.
If you're sitting on a sunny beach at some point in the near future and you haven't done the work you're not going to relax on that beach.
No.
You're going to feel uncomfortable because you don't feel relaxed. Relaxation, if you sit in your bed when you've done nothing, you don't feel good. You think, oh fuck, so I've got to go and do something. If you sit in your bed after a long day of doing something, you want to be there. It feels right being there. And that's something you've touched on that's brilliant there, of there's a real joy to be derived in that difficulty. I think people assume that fear that comes with starting stays as fear.
No.
It's only bad. No, it's not. You're going to experience a feeling of competency within yourself because you think, do you know what? I was scared and I did that anyway. Or I had no idea how to do this and look what I'm doing now. There's something on the other side of this discomfort that is touched on, but people don't get the concept of, if you put yourself in conditions where your business is tested or your mind is tested or your body is tested, it's only a matter of time before you get to a place where you look around and you go, you know what, I've done well and I feel good within myself.
Yeah, and you have to take, as touching on, feeling good about yourself, you have to take the small wins.
Yes, you do. That's right.
Things will fall into place. If you spend hours and hours and hours on something, you will eventually break through. And when you do, my God, it will feel good.
And it feels amazing. Yeah, that's right. It feels amazing. And as you said there about people getting lucky, you can't get lucky you can't accidentally do 5 years of work on something every day toward your thing. If you put the work in, I am a firm advocate of the fact that if you work at something and you really put your effort towards something, you might not get exactly what it is you were thinking you would get, but you're going to get something of value. Yeah. If you work at something, even if you work at something that's totally different to what it is that you end up doing, you understand the value of delayed gratification. You understand that you are someone who is competent enough to go out and brand themselves, advertise themselves. You take yourself seriously enough as a businesswoman to go and look and go, this is what I'm offering. What do you think? There's a confidence in doing that. It gives you so many skills just by trying something. Yeah. And I think that's a really important lesson, that in trying anything that is outside of your comfort zone, you will grow. And at that, there's nothing more to be said. It might not end up being the way you think, but it will end up being of value. I cannot stress enough for people that if you try something and it's something you're scared to do, that if you, as you say, if you try it for long enough and you put those hours in, there is value to be gained, and that's undisputed.
Yeah. Even if you don't achieve what you think you're going to do, at the end of it, at least you'll know, I've got perseverance.
Yeah, exactly. There are things to be gained from it that will transcend your careers and your time.
Yeah, for sure. You just have to put yourself out there. You just have to try, And then I think if you look back at your life, say in 50 years from now, if you regret not trying, how's that going to make you feel? At least if you tried, and even if you failed, you know the outcome.
Yes, you can't say you never tried.
Yeah,
and there is something to that. As I say, if you really go for something and it doesn't work, you feel pride in yourself. You think, I did try. Yeah. You can't. If you leave questions unanswered, as you say, you will go on to regret those. And there's a fantastic quote that I heard of this, of people think that the price of pain is high. Wait until you get the bill from regret. Yeah. Of that pain of regret is, because you can't change that feeling. You can't reverse regret. No. You might be able to right some wrongs, but you can't get rid of the feeling. Yeah. And that is the fear. I think it's the perennial feeling for people to avoid. Unfortunately, we're so often hindered and held back by a barrier of anxiety, of fear to start something. And I think part of that underpinning is that people think they need to be good at something to start it.
No.
And you don't.
No.
Not at all.
Because as you go through things, you'll learn. You don't have to, God, you don't have to know everything now. And in my professional career, that's the biggest piece of advice I've been told. You're not expected to know everything now. You'll learn as you go. And allow yourself that time, because no one knows everything.
You can't.
No, it's impossible. This is why accountants exist. This is why marketing managers exist. This is why other managers exist. if one person could do everything, you'd have nothing.
Yes, you'd have a very unstable economy and a dictator at the top of the world.
Yeah, you're not meant to. You know, you're one person. Yeah, and when you start a business, you almost have to be a jack of all, but you definitely don't have to be a master of everything.
Yeah, and this is the sort of counterbalance that people find difficult. If they think, I need to be good at something so that I can start, but because I haven't started, I'm not good at anything. But, you know, I want to go into business, but I don't know how to run accounts. Well, go and do the first thing that you can do. Go and look on a YouTube video.
Yeah. I love YouTube.
YouTube. Do you know what? Just a point to be made here. I think there's real value to be taken from some of the resources that people gloss over. You know, I think when it comes to actually learning about, I say this is probably for most topics, YouTube and I would argue Netflix are two very valuable resources. You can learn, and this is the thing, is you can learn so much about anything. There is nothing that you can do that you can go, do you know what, I would really like to do that, but no one's done it before. There's nothing out there for me to look at. And if you are someone that's done that, well, you're going to go and do it anyway because no one's done it before. But the point is, people always tend to appeal when they want to start something and they won't because they're scared. They appeal to this part of them that pleads ignorance. They think, oh, I don't know how to do it. Go and look. Yeah. It's all there.
And one of the things I think we've done, we've lost the ability to read.
Yes, that's right.
Everyone wants to be told everything. You know, looking at, and I was told I hadn't done everything right in my socials. You know, I fell down a rabbit hole of, again, going on YouTube. Okay, well, what is right then? You know, where am I at? And I was saying, you know, everything has to be, like, you know, basically 80% reels, you know, 20% push to action and all of that. And I thought, wow, 80% is videos. People don't read anymore then.
No, they don't. No, it's quick, stuff like that.
Yeah, but if people aren't reading on their socials, that they're spending, like 4 hours a day scrolling, most people? I don't know.
Something like that.
Yeah, it's crazy. You know, these people aren't picking up books.
No.
These people aren't reading, you know, information online. These people aren't investing in, okay, this is going to give me the answers that I need. They want to watch a 20-minute YouTube video, less than. That gives them everything. And it doesn't work like that. I know, and sorry to break anyone's hearts out there, but if you want something, you have to put the time in to go and get it.
You have to invest.
You have to study. You know, I don't know what I know now because I've watched, you know, only YouTube videos, or, you know, I've only, you know, approached social media. You know, I've been out there, I've been talking to people, I've been reading things, you know, I've picked up books, you know, I have bought books, you know, I've gone through about 3 or 4 notebooks of taking notes and interpreting that, and then saying to other people, what do you think of this, you know, and getting their opinions. That's why I've even done anything for myself, you know, before I've even done anything productive. You know, it has to, you can't, well, you could just start, but to get value from that, you have to put the groundwork in.
And as you say, that groundwork is not, I mean, don't get me wrong, I do think there is a real value. I think you can learn quite a lot from a 20-minute YouTube video.
Yeah.
You can certainly learn more than you currently know.
Yeah.
As you say, though, there is a obligation to commit time, that you need to read. There was a quote that I saw that was quite interesting on this behalf, that if you read 3 books on anything, you know more than 99% of people do.
Yeah.
Now, 3 books is not a lot. And I actually spoke to my brother about this. I don't think it's 3 books. I think it's 1. I don't know a lot of people that read books. Reading books has absolutely gone out of fashion, and it's something that should be brought back into fashion, because, as you've touched on there, people only want it in the video form. Now, I'm a great advocate of the video form. I think that if you look at something on a video and you can see a photo, and our photographic memory works much better than the reading memory. It's why if you read a book, you won't learn it as well as if you highlight the book, because you're looking, it just changes the complexion there.
And there's sometimes where I'll read things out loud.
Yeah, so because because there's part of your brain that you're appealing to that is better at memorising that.
Definitely.
But at some point you've got to call a spade a spade. Where does the information that comes offline Where does it come from?
Yeah.
It was there beforehand. There was a world before the internet, and what was that world? It was a library.
Yeah.
There's a corpus of information. I went into a second-hand bookshop recently called Baggins.
Okay.
It's the biggest second-hand bookshop in the world, and I went in there, and it's quite a niche little bookshop. It seems as though even if you go for the most prominent of, you could go and look at the history section, and it'll be all the battles that you never would have heard of.
Yeah.
There's so much value that people just do not know exists, because some things you can't find on Google.
No.
There are things that
or
are too
GTP,
niche.
which I hear all the time.
How do you feel about ChatGPT?
I feel like it can set you out. It can put you on a path, but it's not going to get you to your destination.
I think it does too much of the groundwork sometimes. Yeah. I do think I have to say, I think it's very valuable as a resource for giving you ideas. I think if you put in, for instance, yesterday I was looking at polishing up my Facebook bio, and I told it to give me a few examples so that I could draw from that.
Yeah.
For that, I think it's valuable, but people will put, and I've certainly been guilty of this, you'll put, tell me about X, Y, and Z in full form, and then you essentially write the same thing. The difficulty with ChatGPT is it can't constitute what is real and what is fictitious. There was someone who I was speaking to who's an accountant who had to do a sort of end of year assessment type thing.
Yeah. And
someone failed the assessment because one of the examples that they used for whatever question this was from something like Harry Potter rather than real life. now he's an accountant in the medical industry.
Yeah.
So this person had drawn from fictitious medical records because they'd gone on ChatGPT.
Yeah.
But I do think I think another point to be made about people acquiring success and moving towards things is their benchmark for doing this is really low. It doesn't take a lot for you to really start thinking, wow, I'm really doing something here. Yeah. You read a handful of books, or that's only one. Yeah. If you read 2 or 3 books and you spend 10 hours on one thing, you will know quite a lot about that. You can't not. And realistically, what we're saying here, if you read a few small books and you listen to 10 hours on something, you might invest 20 hours and you'll be in today's term, very well educated on something.
Yeah, and it's so easy to stand out nowadays.
Yes, and it is. That's right.
Just by putting in the work, don't always, rely on emails. I see it, with my team sometimes at work. I say, why have you emailed them? Pick up the phone. Have a conversation. You'll solve everything 10 times quicker. And when you want something, there's a time to email. There's also a time to pick up the phone. I think you have to know when that is. Yeah. Like with you, and I said, okay, no, let's just jump on a call. Yeah.
And that was, I was very glad you did that, I must say, because there was a discomfort that I would have been avoiding there. And I do think that touches on it, though, that it's easier to send the email. It's easier to send the text. It doesn't mean it's better.
ChatGPT will write it for you.
Yeah,
you don't have to do anything
exactly.
anymore.
You just have to open up Gmail and go ChatGPT, stick that in there.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that you're doing the right thing. And this is where that, I think work is the great equaliser of the world. I think output is what creates balance. If someone just puts in the ChatGPT email that they've got written for them, they're not going to grow at all from that.
No.
If you go on a phone call with someone and you have a conversation about what it is you're trying to talk about, or a difficult conversation with someone, or an uncomfortable conversation that needs to be had, there's value to be derived from that. We sidestep value all the time because we live in a privileged world. We're in a space where it's so easy to do nothing. And in doing nothing, you don't gain anything.
No, you don't. And we're privileged because so much is done for us, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't go and do it for yourself.
That's the thing that people need to come over, is just because it can be done easy doesn't mean it should be done easily. If something, it's very easy, and most, I shouldn't say most, that's wrong. Plenty of people don't do a great deal with their time. That doesn't mean that that's the right thing to do. Just because you have the facilities to do that doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. It is why people stand out now if they choose to do things.
Yeah.
Because You don't have to do things. There was a time when the world was much, on a basis of success for everyone, the world was much higher of a level because it had to be, because the world was tougher. There weren't so many privileges. The commodity of a phone or heat or food when you want it was not there. It is there now. And as a result of that, the benchmark for what it is that people need to do is so low. You don't need to do anything.
No.
Really, I'm sort of taking the piss there, but you don't need to do a great deal to have enough.
Yeah. No, it's very true. You don't. But then you have to look at then what you want. You know, for example, when me and my partner were looking at, okay, we now want a house. You know, we knew what we wanted, and then we had to work like backwards of how we're going to get there. You know, and our journey on doing that is something that I am so proud of. You know, how we both, you know, worked our socks off essentially to get where we wanted to be. And I think you have to say, you know, not break everything down, but, you know, what's one thing that I want? How do I get there? Where am I going to start?
Let's dig into that, because as you say there, it's sort of the business became the vehicle for the property to be, for you to be able to have that, you needed this.
Yeah.
Talk to me, as I say, as someone who's in the young age bracket, a lot of people are tossing and turning when it comes to actually getting into that position of being able to either go into the business or, as you know, as a perennial issue at the moment, actually go into owning something for yourself. Talk to me about how that came across in your world.
Yeah. Well, we worked out, okay, what sort of, you know, price bracket would we be looking at for a mortgage of what we wanted, and then we worked out, okay, how much do we each need to be putting away a month in order to do that. And we looked at our lives and we made so many changes. You know, for example, Dan was renting a family home. You know, he then moved in with my parents, and my parents have a bungalow and they have a loft conversion. So me and Dan, we lived in the loft for 3 years. You know, I always laugh about it, but you know, we did. You know, and that's where we started. You know, and that meant, okay, brilliant. You've cut down on your rent. You know, that's money that will then go into our future. And then we started thinking, okay, well, if we can, you know, do a bit of work here and a bit of work there, and we'll pick it up. And I remember we'd saved about 19,000, and it was in like December 22. And I remember saying, no, I want to end the year on 20,000. You know, I want my nice round number. And my partner rolls down, he's like, oh, I miss your tism, you know, like, stop it, it's fine.
My tism makes us money though.
Yeah, you know, but it drove me. And I was like, no, I've said this now, we're doing it. So I went down to Sainsbury's and told me on one of their recruitment nights with my CV. And now by day I was an operations manager for charity. You know, I wasn't in a position where I needed to be stacking shelves. I wanted to be stacking shelves. I wanted my house. So I would work from 10 p.m. till about 4 a.m. Putting all the beans on the shelves and, you know, doing all of that of a night time. And it was quite heavy, you know, it was graft. You know, I'd come home, have a bath, you know, I'd go to sleep. And then I'd be up at 9 a.m. working from home, you know, doing my day job, finish that about 6, you know, nap, repeat, you know, that's what I did. And I worked out that I needed to do something like 24 shifts to be able to get the £1,000 that I needed. Now, at this point, I didn't work out the tax. And then I was like, oh no, it wasn't quite 24. But, you know, I ticked them all off as I went through, and okay, no, 6 more shifts to go. 5 more shifts to go, you know, and there was times where I thought, oh, I really don't want to go in, I don't want to do this, or, you know, I'm in pain, you know, I'm knackered, I don't want to do this. Like, no, I want to finish the year on 20k, you know, and we did.
How did it feel when you saw that nice rounded sum?
Oh, it was amazing.
Yeah, I can well imagine that feeling there made all of those naps and those uncomfortable days and nights worth it?
Yeah, it was a very happy New Year. Yeah, we and we were able to celebrate, and that was something to celebrate for us then, and Dan took on other secondary employment, I did as well, this time in the daytime. And we just worked our socks off until it happened.
I think that's a really important message for people to hear, that it is going to be hard. There's no way around it. If you want to do something that is worth doing, you're going to struggle. There are extra shifts to be had. There is work to be done.
Mm-hmm.
There are days where you're going to spend your time frustrated or upset, or even worse. It is a tough ride. But as you say there's something to be found on the other side of that. There is something that cannot be found in the luxury of the armchair. It is only to be found in thinking, what I see in front of me there, that bank sum or the business or this whatever, I did that.
Yeah.
That was me that did that, or that was us that did that.
Yeah, and whilst we were sort of scrabbling to get everything together, one of our friends phoned and said, and this is where the business started, said, I've got a Mr. and Mrs. sign that I'm giving up. I don't want to do it anymore. She was more sort of florists, so she was dealing with my table centerpieces and all the finer art that goes into a wedding, rather than sort of your big signage and things like that. So that she was giving it up because it wasn't for her anymore. And we saw that as an opportunity of, okay, well, we know it works. This looks great. We can do something with this. And we met her and said, yeah, we'll take it on, and we'll do what we can. And at first, we just saw it as something, okay, we'll put it on Facebook Marketplace for hire and we'll just roll out straight away. And then it's something, when we got it back to like our workshop, it was thinking, okay, no, we're gonna have to put a little bit of love into this, because this isn't wedding worthy, if you like. And then £600 later and a lot of love, it was right, okay, we're doing this now. And then it's all, okay, well, if someone comes to us for one thing, we ought to have something else, and we ought to have that, and then our business just grew. And that's where we are, and that's one of the reasons why we've got as much as what we've got now. It all started from one sign, but I wanted to think, if I was going into something, I wanted to be the best that I could be at it. And I think that's maybe me as a perfectionist.
I do get that sense from you.
But what's point in doing something half-hearted? If we're going into this, we're putting everything into this. It's very much all or nothing, but we have to start somewhere, and if anything didn't work out, and touch wood, it does. But if it doesn't work out, I know that I put everything into it, and it wasn't because I didn't have enough behind me. It wasn't because my stuff isn't good enough, because I know that it is. Yeah. I have ticked every box that I can, and I now just have to trust the universe and just hope that, it flourishes the way that everyone's told me it will.
And if it doesn't, we touch wood.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, there's plenty that you have learned.
I'm going to have a brilliant wedding.
There you go. You will have it. There's something good to be found.
Yeah.
I think what you've touched on there really well is that you can't buy pride. No. You can't chat GPT good feeling.
Definitely not.
The feeling that comes from really trying, really going for something is unparalleled. I cannot stress enough to people that it will be hard to do things. The things that are worth doing will be difficult.
Yeah.
But the feeling that you will get from doing them is unparalleled. You won't find it anywhere else.
Yeah, and if it wasn't difficult, it wouldn't be worth doing, right?
Hard things are hard, that's why they're hard.
Yeah.
And
Totally.
I do think it's this, as I said, we sidestep difficulty so often because we live in this world of luxury where difficulty is not the given. We live in a world where we have to go to the gym to put ourselves through pain because there's not enough pain outside of the gym. We're in a luxury state, and as a result of that, we don't grasp this concept of the value of doing things that are difficult. It's sort of trite online where people say, "Oh, do the difficult things," but people don't actually live the difficulty. Yeah. And I think as well, an interesting point to be made here is the difficulty you're talking about isn't sort of, I think we often romanticize difficulty. It's like you think of this, the great struggle toward the goal, and the goal will be a field of roses and rainbows. It's not that way. It's the 4 a.m. finishes. It's the tired 2 p.m.s. It's the not feeling sure whether what you're doing is going to work, not being sure whether you're going to get to the place. I think it's important for people to realise that the key to progressing and working toward things is getting comfortable with the uncomfortable. And that uncomfortable isn't glamorous. It's never glamorous. There's no glamour in being scared as to whether what you're doing is going to work. It's not glamorous. It's scary. It's a fearful feeling. But, as I say, there's the value to be derived there. And I think the sooner people can realise that actually this is the feeling I want to have, this is where I want to be, and this is what to expect. This is not it's not a bug, it's a feature. What I'm looking for here is this thing.
Yeah, definitely. You know, you have to just grasp everything with both hands. You know, these emotions, everything that you're, you know, during business I might feel on Monday, you know, it doesn't mean I'm going to feel that on Wednesday.
No.
You know.
And almost invariably you won't. The dynamic is so shifting when you're working, when you're new into something. It's like you left the oven on over there and then all of a sudden the fucking house is on fire over here. There's always something going on.
Yeah, definitely. And also, you know, that aside, you know, I have a family life. I still have a career that I'm doing outside of all of this. So there are times where, you know, that's a priority to me, you know, and that isn't. You know, for example, I will always try and make sure that my days off align with my partner. You know, no matter what we do, we'll have time together, and you have to make that time, because otherwise, you know, we leave the house, we go to work, you know, and then we're apart, and then when we, you know, work on the business, we're together, but we're working on something.
You're in business mode.
Yeah, it's different, you know. We're not talking about, you know, what we want to do. We're not talking about what's on TV. We're talking about what we need to do to get us from A to B. You know, and it can all be a little bit serious, you know, and that's okay. You know, but you still have to make the time, and I think that's sometimes where people go wrong, you know, and relationships can break down almost because everything's done, and it's all, like I said, it's all personal, you know, and you have to be able to separate that and go, no, I'm closing the laptop down now, you know, I've had enough for today, and you're allowed to do that. Just because you're a business owner doesn't mean you don't get a day off.
Yes,
you know, you have to say no. You know, I'm going to park that. I've done what I can. I'm going to come back and view that tomorrow. Like I said at the beginning, fresh pair of eyes. You know, my logo, like I said, my logo's changed 3 times. You know, I haven't even launched yet. You look at things after conversations with different perspectives. You know, and sometimes having some rest, having some chill, having some sleep, going out, doing something. Yeah, and don't get me wrong, there's some times where I think, I really want to get back because I want to put that on Facebook, or I need to do that, or I need to go on Canva, and this isn't a priority to me right now. But sometimes, you know, unwind. Yeah. You know, it doesn't matter, it will come.
It often becomes when people do work towards things that are of value, it becomes the great difficulty to do nothing.
Yeah. It
becomes hard to switch off because, as you say, all of a sudden every moment needs to be towards this. There's that brain. It's very difficult to switch on and off the brain that wants to improve.
Yeah.
It is a struggle of the fact that when you're going towards something, you consider everything an opportunity. It's the basis of the mind at that point because you're looking for things. You're thinking, you know, you'll be on your day off walking down the street and you'll see a sign that is in such a beautiful manner that you think,
I really like that font.
Yeah, I think we need to go home. I think I need to go and have a look at that. It is very difficult for people to grasp this concept of the value of relaxation and rest. Now, on the inverse of what it is we've been talking about up until this point of people getting out of that restful state and into the action mode, on the other end of that, there is the balancing to be done.
Yeah, and you have to have balance.
You can't not. I think I'm still sort of navigating this scene that I am of the mind that if you want one thing to be particularly great, you kind of can't have balance because you're putting all your energy that way, so something falls by the wayside. But that's not necessarily the case. It's something that you have quite obviously juggled the pots very well here, that you've gone into business with your partner, and as I know you've said that it's a different relationship, but you've sort of been able to manage that understanding of the importance of the business with the importance of the relationships. I do think, just to round that out there, you're bang on that sometimes the best thing for you to do is to go on the walk, or
walk away,
to go and have a coffee, or to chill out, watch TV or something like that. It's sort of the some people need to be told just to relax, just chill out. The best thing you can do for your business right now is just
nothing.
sit there and chill out. And some people need to be told, stop sitting there. You need to never sit in that chair again for the next few weeks. Just come on, let's do something.
Come on, get up, do a thing, anything.
But I think it is, when it comes to growth, and this is a sort of, I shall try and polish this around the edges as I go through it. When you're working towards something, it's not always evident what actually constitutes growth. When you're, for instance, for me, I know that there are times when I really need to just relax. What I need to do is, if I could pull my brain out of my head and just put it in a jar on the side for a moment and just sit and just relax, that would be the best thing for me to do. I would, I might have been working all day and I should think, you're tired, your brain is tired, just relax.
Now's not the time.
We can't manage to. There's a podcaster I listen to called Chris Williamson who's made this point fantastically. We can't congratulate ourselves for sitting on the beach today. There's not that tangible growth aspect to it. But as we touched on, just whilst you're navigating, growing towards something, you don't necessarily know what is of the most value. Sometimes it's more valuable for you to relax today than it is for you to continue pushing on with that goal, because pushing on with a goal for so long leads one way, and that's to burnout. What I'd be interested to look into is, how have you managed to sort of develop a relationship between knowing when to rest and knowing that you're pursuing a goal that requires you to put that extra effort in?
I think hearing you say it back to me like that, I look back to when I was cabin crew. So I used to fly for TUI, and then the pandemic ended that, and then I flew for a cargo company. So I've got quite a lot of experience in aviation, and what you are told, no matter what, when you go through to getting your attestation, which is your flying license, if you like, is safety. So, I've become one of them nutters with a clipboard, which I'm not ashamed to admit. But, there's so much in aviation that they have had to change and develop because there's been so many deaths. Things have gone wrong, and it's all down to human factors. And it is drummed into you over and over again that when things go wrong, typically, and, forget the 737 MAX situation we've all seen on the TV in the last few years with Boeing.
What's happened there?
With Boeing, they started having aircraft crashes because their technology.
I didn't know
in the flight
that.
deck. Yeah, it was a few years ago. But yeah, typically it's when accidents happen, it's not because of equipment, it's because of people, and people not using that equipment, correctly. So in aviation, one of the things you're taught massively, because you're jumping from time zone, is about accumulative fatigue.
Right.
And
what's accumulative fatigue?
So you might go to work one day and think, oh, I don't know what to do, I'm really tired. And then you might go to work the next day and be like, oh, I'm really tired. But are you actually fatigued, or are you tired? What's the problem here? Do you just need some rest? Are you actually okay? Or are you at a point where I can't do any more? And they manage it very well in aviation. You have a particular roster, and there's strict flying hours, and you can't do this and you can do that, but you have to be really mindful. And they're very good at saying, look, if you have got fatigue, or you are not in a state of mind that you can get up and operate safely, don't come to work, because we don't want you. Phone in and tell us you're fatigued. And I've never been in a job that said, you're too tired, don't come to work.
Yeah,
Can you imagine it?
Thing.
It doesn't happen, but and it's not used as loosely as that. But in aviation, it has to be that way. Can you imagine if the cabin crew member was so tired they forgot to arm the door?
Yeah, it would be an interesting.
And all of a sudden there's no slide if you need it, or they forgot to disarm the door and they open it at Gatwick or wherever. They open the door, slide engages. You'll kill someone stood the other side of that door. You can't afford to be tired, and you have to be really strict. You have to be strict with yourself. You have to monitor yourself. You have to be very self-aware of, this is too much for me right now. And I think both me and Dan are from that background. Dan was military, so they're very different, but the core values are the same.
Yeah.
So we're quite lucky in that we can spot that in each other. It's you've done too much. Regards to how you feel and how you think you feel, you have done too much. And you have to sort of look back and think, okay, well, I've done X, Y, Z, I've been here, there and everywhere. I need some time off now. I don't feel like I do. And if I do an hour, I do an hour, but I'm not going to commit to a day.
So you've got a good concept embedded there that rest is important.
Yeah.
There is absolutely a place for rest. There's a reason as to why we need to rest. You can't just keep going. And I think it's easy to fall into a pattern of thinking, no, I need to go towards the goal. I need to go towards the goal. I have to spend all the time doing it. And it's sort of an inverse on that, because if you hit fatigue or burnout, worse, you can't do anything. You're too tired to do anything at all. You can't even do the hour. I think what you've touched on there as well is quite an interesting concept that I use, and I think is absolutely valuable, of reframing sometimes. Of you think, right, I'm ready to go, I'm fueled as I need to be, I can push the way my performance, top performance, I can go for it. And sometimes I'm really tired, I haven't slept very well for the last few days, or I've been working towards this and I need to rest. Okay, maybe I don't need to sit on the sofa and vegetate, I can do an hour.
Yeah.
And then I think it's useful for people to reframe that, of thinking, and I've solved quite a few anxieties of this, with thinking, I was really tired today and I still did something. I still worked. I know my limits. You get sort of two positives there. If you think, I was tired and I still did it, I still, I prioritise that there's still a goal to be gone towards here, but I need to take care of myself.
Yeah.
There's two positives to be had here.
Yeah, definitely. It's very similar when people go to the gym, isn't it? So, it's about having the habit. Even if I might not actually be doing something, physically on my laptop with the business or out talking to people, but if I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking, okay, well, this is what I need to do, or that's what I need to do, or, I'm reflecting on something, some days that's good enough.
I would actually argue it's the goal that you want, of if you can get your mind into a stage where you can not work, but you can, as you say, you can just think about it.
Yeah.
If you can get to a stage where that's comfortable for you, you're onto a winner, because you're no longer actually fatiguing yourself with growth. I think it's an important lesson for people to realise that the closer you can get to integrating your goals in a way where it's no longer hard to do it as such, or it's hard to do the real effort, but as you say, you're not going to feel particularly stressed with thinking, I wonder whether this will, of course there can be a boiling point here where you think about it and you just you can't sit down because you keep thinking about it. But if I'm not mistaken, what you've touched on there is that you can get to this stage where you can sort of work and rest.
Yeah, I think you have to be careful, because it can lead into almost a slippery slope of being too laid back and thinking, well,
or the other way around.
Or that. But sometimes I feel like, hey, am I being too late? Am I just thinking, okay, well, it will all happen when it's meant to happen, and then actually I achieve nothing.
Sometimes it doesn't fall into your lap.
Yeah, it doesn't, and you have to check yourself. You think, okay, well, I haven't done anything for a few days, so I should be doing something now.
Yeah.
Where are you at with it? And I think as long as you're in a position where you can self-reflect and you have someone else to check you as well. Dan made a point to me the other day. He's like, Emily, we don't have a price list. So yeah, and that's because I've been at work, and that's okay, But equally, I'm like, oh yeah, I really need to do that bloody price list.
I have a reason, but maybe there's something.
Yeah,
to
there's
be
probably
said there.
something to that. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
You just have to, you just have to try. You have to check each other. And that's what you're there for. I've got friends who will say, "How's everything going?" And I'm like, "Yeah, great."
Not stressed at all.
And I'm like, okay, maybe I should actually, try and believe that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think the closer we can get to having a good rapport with ourselves on growth, the better. If you, as you say, sometimes you can think, I've hit that brick wall, I'm tired, I need to rest, I need to go and sit on that beach. But then you sit on the beach for too long. And now you've got the issue in itself. I think there's one thing that's this sort of perpetual striving when it comes to improvement is you do fall one of two ways a lot of the time.
Yeah.
It is, as we touched on there, if you want to be extraordinary or progressed in something, you have to be off balance somewhere. And as a result, that balance can start getting further and further. And I think it's just important for people to recognise that it's an ever-changing scene when you're growing. You will have the time at the start where you don't know anything and you can't put yourself into the goal because you're too lazy to do it because you've never done it before. And then you'll get to the time when you've progressed yourself to such a level that now it's hard for you to not work. You've got an unhealthy work relationship where you think, wow, I really need to, I cannot not do something. I think it's constantly looking at those scales and seeing how much you're prepared to be off kilter sometimes. I think if you're prepared sometimes to go, look, there's periods where maybe the relationship falls just a little bit off, or maybe I'm a little bit more tired than normal. And there's other times when, in order to get that back up to where it needs to be, I need to bring this down a little bit. The work needs to fall by the wayside.
And if you think of, like a boat in the ocean, it's never smooth sailing.
Exactly.
Ever.
Yes.
And you can't expect everything to be perfect. It's just...
You will be sorely disappointed.
Yeah.
And as we touched on earlier before, you don't want them to be.
No.
You want this. I have to catch myself in this sometimes, that I'll be stressed out on something. I think, oh, fuck's sake, it's like, why is this not ending? There seems to always be something for me to be overthinking or be worried about. And I think, oh, why can this just not be the way that it is? And I think, no, this is what you signed up for. This is the journey. I think it's important for people to grasp that it's one great picture. It's not... Of course, we look on a day-to-day basis. We look at, how am I feeling today? If I'm not feeling very good today, then obviously the world is falling apart somehow.
Yeah.
If everything's going well, then I'm living in paradise. I think it's important to have a longer vision in some senses of going, I'm on a journey towards something. I'm creating a business. This comes with its ebbs and flows, its peaks and troughs. I think the sooner people can become comfortable with embracing the failure on one side and embracing the discomfort on the other side of maybe you do fall into that place where work balance is totally off kilter.
Yeah.
I think what I'm trying to get at here, and what I'd be interested to dig into, is if you can be comfortable with all that comes your way, you will enjoy it en masse. I think I actually, sort of in a funny way, I think I spend more time stressed and potentially upset than a lot of people, but I'm also much happier than a lot of people.
Yeah.
At the exact same time.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Yeah, because I think you do, and that just shows how passionate you are about doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
Because you wouldn't feel such highs and lows if you didn't. Some people, they enjoy what they do, and there's stresses and there's rewards in what they do. But I think when it's personal to you, the lows are lowers. The lows are lower, but the highs are most definitely higher.
I think you can, when it comes to pursuing something, that real low feeling that you get to often has such a sort of bounce back quality to it, where you think, I'm not staying here, this is not what I want, or this feels so uncomfortable that I need to do more. There's a great motivation in pain.
Yeah.
I think pain is a real mover, and I also think that this is sort of the issue that we touched on with life being so cushy nowadays is that people are sort of comfortable enough that it's not difficult, but not in pain enough that they need to change.
Yeah.
It's sort of, you're sitting in this bit where it's like, well, I'm not that happy that I don't know what I'm going to do in any amount of time. You know, I'm not very happy that I don't, that there's a business I'd like to do, but I'm not going to do because I can't really be bothered. But also, I have got Doritos here, and I do have my phone, and it is warm, and I think people can fall into this sort of middle category where it's not bad enough, but not good enough. I think in some senses it's important that when failure comes your way, you do derive as much value as you can from it, because it absolutely can propel you forwards.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it often does. It is... I have very consistently found with people of drive and impetus that there's a breaking point somewhere. There was somewhere where something went wrong and they thought, fuck this, I'm going to do something else now. There's an annoyance. Like, for instance, you're having your own difficulties with your workplace. So there's something that, you know, I don't want to dig too far into your personal life, but there are things where you think, oh, come on, you know, I want to do something now. I want to change this somehow.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, when you look at how, you know, contracts are structured, you know, and this isn't just my place, this is every workplace, you know, typically, you know, they will say, you know, you can't work for another business without our consent. Why do I owe you that?
Yes.
No, I'm only contracted to work, you know, 40, 45, 38, whatever hours a week. What I do outside of them hours, as long as it doesn't impact anything to do with, you know, what you're contracted to do, why do you reserve the right to dictate my life? Because you certainly don't pay enough for that.
And that's the right word as well. We live in a democracy full of dictators.
Yeah, it's just crazy. And then you think, okay, look at Morrison's, for example. I don't work for Morrison's. But, you know, look at them, for example. You know, they'll be telling some of their employers, potentially, you know, you can't work somewhere else. You know, you can't have a conflict of interest and blah, blah, blah.
Morrison's feud.
Yeah, but then they go and own them a course, you know, and they have business and interests in other things. And you think, okay, well, you know, their staff have still got bills to pay. You know, so you don't want them to put all their eggs in one basket with you. Yet, you know, Mr. Director sat at the top here is getting money from
many pies you like.
A, B and C revenue streams. You know, and yet they keep people where they want them. Absolutely not. No way.
I think this is an important point to drive in here, that we do live, particularly the English love doing this. If someone tells you to do it, you do it.
Yeah.
We live in a world. I mean, you only have to go outside of a Morrison's and see how many people are quite happy to stand in a queue 2 meters apart from each other to see that we're quite happy to just do as we're told.
Yeah.
I think it is important for people to develop an understanding of, just because you're told it doesn't necessarily mean it's right.
Yeah.
I think we live in an age where the closer, you know, I don't want this to sort of come across as vigilante endorsing or anarchism, but it is important for people to really understand who they are. If you want to do it and it doesn't impact anyone, you know, for instance, on your behalf, you are not doing anything wrong, as you say, but you stick to your contracted hours, you do what you do there, but you have something for your own on your own behalf. What's your time? But what's it got to do with you? It is up to you. That's your life. And as you say, there is no reason as to why someone should be held by that. But if someone tells you that, it can be what bursts the bubble. It can be what someone goes, oh, well, I'd like to do that, but I'm not going to because I've been told I can't. If someone tells you that you can't do something, it is your obligation to ask the question to yourself, why are they telling me I can't do it?
And do you know what advice I'd give to anyone?
Go for it.
Ask for forgiveness, not permission.
Yes, and I think that's good.
All day long.
Yeah.
You know.
Shoot first.
Yeah.
Don't shoot first. Make a decision first.
Ask questions later.
I think we live in a world where if you're told something, you just do it.
Yeah.
Questions are a valuable currency. If you can ask yourself something or ask someone else something, or do, you know, I say, there's certainly a needle to be thread here that I don't want people to just break out into. Can you put that on that shelf, please? No. Why do I need to do that?
Yeah, I don't.
Should I put that on that shelf? My point is, that
Revitability.
it's horses for courses on this. But I think when it comes to pursuing things, people can look for obstacles. I think someone can think, I could do that, but there's this thing that says in my contract, or maybe someone in my family might not necessarily endorse it, or it's something that I've had with this podcast. I've had people in the past, when I first started this sort of first time I started videos rather than podcasts, I told someone that I had done it, and they laughed in my face. They laughed at me.
Nice.
And classy. And things like that can really denigrate people. They can really think, oh, well, because essentially what you're being told there is, don't do that, it's stupid. That's kind of what the message is being said there. I think people often think through someone else nowadays, and that's a terrible thing to do. You want to, as best as you can, derive your information from valuable sources, but it's up to you to act as a filter of what is and isn't valuable.
Totally. You are in charge of your own destiny. You are in the driving seat. If you want to do something, do it. If you want to, be somewhere, go there. The only thing stopping you is you.
Yes, almost invariably.
Yeah.
Or we can think that something else is doing it, but it's not. It still boils down to us. Okay. It's maybe someone says we can't do that. Well, they're not holding you in shackles. It's your mind that is saying, oh, they've said I can't. Well, if you just do it anyway, then there you go.
Ask for forgiveness. But even if you didn't want to go down that path, and not everybody does, okay, well, that's your work contract. Go and get another job. The world is full of them. That job you're doing right now, you'll be replaced tomorrow if they had to.
Yes.
I've seen it.
If someone else is younger or smarter or fitter or cheaper,
anything,
it's not personal.
And you are just a number, even in the smallest businesses. You might think, okay, research, I'll get on with everyone here. Just payroll number. If you left, it would still continue. Someone else would do your job. Someone would jump in. And 6 months later, they'll forget who you are. Don't. Luckily, I think my eyes opened to it a lot during COVID. And I'm particularly aware of it now. Don't wait for someone, to tell you it's okay. No one's going to tell you that.
Yeah.
That's not coming.
It won't happen. It very rarely happens.
Yeah, no one's going to pat you on the back and tell you off you go.
It's one thing that people should get comfortable with is if you choose to do something that's on your own behalf, most of what you hear will be anti it.
Yeah.
You will have your close kin that will advocate and will say, well done, go for it, be free. Most people will be apprehensive about it. Can you imagine what conversations I have with the other job that I do? Involves talking to quite a lot of old people. Basically, I take care of a park, and obviously there's a lot of old people that sit down there and have a coffee.
Yeah, nice.
And when they say, "Oh, so what are you coming back to do today?" and you say, "Oh, I'm having a podcast talking about."
What, dear?
Exactly. What, dear? Yeah, and you think it's nothing personal on that front. It's just the way that people are. If you choose to stand out and you choose to do something that is left of field, we're in a tall poppy syndrome climate.
Yeah.
We don't mean to be. I don't actually think that England is overtly sort of cynically pessimistic. I think we just kind of are that way. Yeah. I think there's something about English people that they just take the piss.
Yeah.
And part of that is if someone chooses to do something different, that you try and you're the crab in the bucket. You try and pull them back down.
Yeah. And I think for me, and me and Dan's journey in particular, Event Rent, we have seen so much more support from strangers than, truthfully, we have our family, which is horrible to think, they're your nearest and dearest, they're the ones that you think they should be supporting you, they should be the ones that are backing you, but actually some of the people that have pushed us further along, and it's really helped us, it's water, not blood.
Yes, and I think the water, not blood point is blood cares for you, and as a result of caring, wants you to do something that's safe.
Yeah.
There is a sort of, it's a damage limitation thing on that behalf, that it's like, this might not be exactly what you want, but at least it doesn't mean that you fall right by the wayside. Like it's okay, and okay is better than bad.
Yeah.
But and this is a trap people fall into, as we touched on before, that it's like it's good but not good enough, bad but not bad enough. Just because something is acceptable doesn't mean it's actually what you want. And there will likely come a time, if you're someone who has that voice in your head that thinks, I would like to do that, I would like to try that, I wonder if I could, I wonder if I could bring my own business to fruition. If you're someone who has that voice, lean into it.
Yeah.
You will not lose the voice. The voice becomes, I've found that you can often try and suppress that voice, but it's you. It's who you are.
Yeah.
And some people, a lot of people, I would argue, have a part of them that is ingrained in trying to get better. I think humans innately want to get better, but it's sort of suppressed in some more than others. I'd be interested to see, what do you feel about people going into business? Do you think that it is a worthwhile cause?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You don't know if you don't try. I think sometimes you have to scratch that itch. If you are someone that's sat there thinking, I'd really like to do, whatever, just go and do it. Just go and do it. You will find, you have knockbacks, but you will find so much support out there. Don't get me wrong, you have to go and look for it, but it will be there. Everything will come when it's meant to as well. It's one step forward, 2 steps back. You'll hate yourself sometimes, and you'll think, oh,
And you will.
Yeah, I didn't do that, or I should have done this, or it's when I think we're all guilty of this, aren't we? Think, well, if I'm really tired now, so if I go to bed now, I'll just get up early in the morning, and then you snooze the alarm, and you get up late, and then you think, oh, for God's sake.
So the cycle goes.
Yeah, and it just continues. But persevere, because just think back to that day of when you saw that light bulb moment of, that's what I want to do, and when the going gets tough and you snooze the alarm, remember what you felt when you heard that penny drop and you thought, well, no, I want to do this. You have to push forward. No one's going to be pushing you. Not many people are going to be clapping you along.
No one will. Like, to be quite frank, people only start paying attention when it's going really well.
And there's potentially something in it for them. And a lot of people like that.
For a lot of people, and it's not, and that's not a point to be cynical on. It's just the way that people are. It's, we can't get around that a lot of the time. I would like to press into that point there, that there are these difficult elements, as we've touched on, in business and in pursuit. It is going to be a journey. There are going to be plenty of times when you doubt yourself, you doubt the plan, and it's not so fun. Why is it valuable, even still, to scratch that itch and to go for it?
The lessons you'll learn going through the motions will bring of so much value to you. Whether you achieve at the end of it what you originally set out to or not is irrelevant of what will become on the journey. Your end goal will change. You might think, okay, well, I want to own this, or I want this size warehouse, and I want to be able to turn this many. Some people, even on day one, are thinking of the millions. I'll be happy to flip $5,000. People think too far in advance sometimes. I think you have to just sort of take the small wins, take the time to, look back and think, no, I can do that now. I've spent, a few hours on, digital marketing and this and that. Brilliant. Tomorrow's going to be the best day. I'm more educated than I was yesterday. And just propel yourself forwards. And it will never be a waste of time, because if it doesn't work out and, completely fails and you step away from it completely, your next job interview or your next, opportunity in your career, in your workplace life, you'll bring things to the table that you otherwise wouldn't have. And no one's given that to you. You've given that to yourself.
Experience is invaluable. You can't get around that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have to go and get it.
I think that's a good place for this to it's a very pleasant podcast to end.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
I appreciate your insight. And I have to say, on my own behalf, I think you've got a marvellously compelling attitude towards what it is you're working towards. I think a lot of people will be able to derive value from. I mean, I can see it talking to you that there's something there. There's that feeling there for going towards something, and I can see that you do practice what you preach on this. We've made a point in today's video of that importance of pressing forward, of going toward it, of the fact that it's going to be hard, but there's real value on the other side of that. I think you stand as a great role model on the behalf of, you do something that's hard and you realise on the other side that it was all worth it.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for your time.
You're very welcome.
And that is that. And
nice.
we got through.